When looking for a new job and interviewing at different companies, yes, it's true that those companies are interviewing you, but they aren't the only ones that should be doing the interviewing. You should be too. Here are 5 essential topics that you need to make sure you understand about your employer before you agree to work for them. Let's go. A lot of people think that working for someone else is safe, or at least safer than working for yourself. However, this isn't always true. There are relatively safe companies to work for, and there are very risky companies to work for as well. And just because you're in a nice, cushy job doesn't mean you're safe. If you don't have any idea what's going on behind the scenes, and if you didn't do your due diligence before you agreed to work for that company, you have no idea how much risk you're in. At any given moment, that company could be in financial trouble and end up having to lay you off. At any moment, someone in leadership can just not like you for whatever the reason may be and want you gone. Maybe you spoke up in a meeting and said something that was very important, but because they didn't think of it or because it went against their views, they didn't like it. Not every boss or manager is okay with you voicing a difference of opinions. And maybe even worse than being let go is being in a job that's okay, but has no purpose, no excitement, and just no room for advancement in your career. That's not a place that I personally want to be at. You can do your best to not end up in these situations by asking the right questions in your interviews. Now, in any job interview, the main focus is to understand and communicate how you can add value to them and their business. I'm a firm believer in serving people, and much of the time, if you can help your manager and your company get what they want, you often can get what you want as well. So that has to be the main focus when interviewing. How are you going to add value and help this business get to where it wants to go? But that doesn't mean you shouldn't look out for yourself as well. You working for them needs to be a win-win for both the company and you. And it's more than just compensation you need to worry about. Whenever you get a job offer, they will, of course, tell you the salary, and that's when you can negotiate that. So I'm not going to touch on negotiating salaries in this video, but in this video, I'm going to touch on some of the aspects that a lot of people miss. Now, one of the first things I would try to understand when interviewing a company is their financial health. Remember, if a company goes belly up or gets into financial trouble, you might end up on the unemployment line. At almost any company, the people are often the greatest assets, but they're also the biggest expenses. So layoffs are almost inevitable to companies with poor financial health. So during the interview, you want to gauge this. Ask them about the company's recent financial performance. What has their revenue growth looked like over the past several years? You want to see steady growth because a company with shrinking revenues is not a good sign for you. A company can't just keep paying the same staff the same income if they bring in less money year after year after year. Eventually, something's got to change, and oftentimes layoffs are the only options for some companies. You also want to look at the profit margins, especially if the company is trying to woo you with the potential of sizable company bonuses. If not based on your individual metrics, these bonuses are often not guaranteed and often based off the profitability of the business. You also want to see that the company has good cash flow. Cash flow is a really good gauge for their ability to reinvest into the business and expand. You want a growing business because oftentimes that's more potential opportunities for you to move into new positions, new departments, and get more money. But these are just a few of the ways to gauge financial health of the company. So if I was interviewing, I would ask about these 3 metrics, but also just ask if there's any financial reports or indicators they can share with you that would help them show long-term financial health of the business. Oftentimes they can't or won't give you this information, so you may want to gauge it in other ways. If it's a public company, you can always look at the financial statements in the investor relations part of the website. If it's a private company, however, it's much harder. And oftentimes you have to scour the internet to find news articles or go on sites like Crunchbase to see if they went through a recent round of funding. But still, this is not the best info. I may go a bit deeper into how to quickly research a company you're interviewing with in a future video. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. But before we continue, I just want to ask that you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so we'd really appreciate it. The next subject we want to understand when interviewing a potential employer is the opportunities for career growth. You want to ask them what opportunities there are for career advancement and professional development, as well as if the company prefers to promote from within the company or they prefer to hire outside the company. Specifically, what percentage of managers or leaders were promoted from within the company versus outside the company. Some companies have a hard time promoting people from within the company for whatever reason. You want to be at a company that's going to reward you for doing great work and helping the company succeed. Even if they can't give you an exact percentage, they should be able to give you a few examples of people who moved up through the ranks within the company. Now, the next topic you want to discuss during the interview is this. What exactly does the compensation growth structure look like? In every business I go into, I know I'm going to crush it. And I'm going to add a lot more value to them than they offer me in compensation. Now, having said that, I still want to know if my hard work will be rewarded. And oftentimes, it's not clear how the pay for the job you're interviewing is tied to performance. It's clear for some areas like sales, where they typically have a clear sales incentive plan. But for most other areas of the business, you have no idea how your performance is going to impact your pay. Some merit pay increases are based on a curve. They only have so much money to go around for pay increases, so you can't just do a great job. You also have to outperform your peers in order to get a higher pay raise. Which, that's okay, but you at least need to know that kind of stuff up front. And to go alongside this, you need to understand how your performance is actually measured. How often your performance reviews, what are the metrics they're looking at, and how does your job impact those metrics? A lot of times, your pay increases will be based off metrics that have nothing to do with you or your job. And so you have no ability to impact those. You want to have some kind of control or impact over whether or not you will get more money in the future. In my personal opinion, this is very important. Next, you want to understand if your job is connected to the long-term mission and vision of the company. They should have a clear understanding of where the company is going and the goals that they're aiming at. And everyone within the organization should have roles and responsibilities that support that mission and vision in some way. If your role doesn't, then that's a sign that the role could be temporary or expendable. I've been at companies where the hiring manager during the interview knew that they were only going to have that person in that job for a couple months, and they were either going to let them go or move them in a different position. Now, to me, this is just wrong. That person isn't coming there to do some random job or get fired in a couple months. If you're going to have something temporary, make it clear during the interview. So if your role doesn't tie to the mission and vision and goals of the company, then when times get rough and the company has a couple down years, your job may be the first to go. The next topic you want to discuss is work-life balance. Are you just going to be a slave to this company? Working 80 hours a week, no overtime pay, always expected to answer emails, regardless of what time it is? Is there flexibility in what hours you can work and the location you can work from? This is especially important for parents. Having a flexible job has been so important for me and my wife. Between kids' school and doctor's appointments and all the other stuff you have to deal with, I'm really not sure how parents without flexible jobs do it. This is a must for me. And going back to hours worked, it's really important to estimate the actual pay per hour, even if you're a salaried employee. People don't realize that oftentimes those who get paid a lot of money may be getting paid less per hour because they work so much. Not to mention the long commutes people have. Now, my first job out of college was a 2-hour commute each way. That's a half day wasted. I would have been better off getting a lower paying job that was closer, or even getting a remote job and then picking up another part-time job. So having flexibility and understanding what the typical work week looks like is very important. Now, a lot of hiring managers lie and just paint a rosy picture about their workplace. So it's good if you can get a chance to talk to some of the employees who work at that company to get the real deal on what's going on. These are just a few of the questions that I would ask, but there's a lot more. Now, you usually can't ask all these questions that you want in one interview, but it's good to try to get this information throughout the hiring process, especially if you're interviewing with multiple people. I've never had a lack of questions at the end of the interview when they ask if you have any questions. It always baffles me when people have no curiosity about the job they're interviewing for. This is the place that you're going to spend 40, 50, 60 hours of your life every single week dedicated to. You better know something about it. Now, your job is a critical component of how you build wealth. And if you want more tips on how to build wealth, check out this video right here.